My brothers, my sisters, come in close and listen with your heart, for today we speak not just with words, but with the soul. We speak of a woman, not just any woman, but a silent woman. And oh, how the world has misunderstood her quiet, how it has misjudged her stillness, her hush, her sacred pause. You see, there is power in silence that rattles the heavens. There is grace in a woman who does not rush to speak, who does not fight to be seen, who does not break her own spirit to be heard. She is not weak. She is not timid. No, baby. She is wrapped in wisdom. She is cloaked in divine armor. She knows the power of restraint. She understands that when storms rage and tongues lash, it is not always her voice that must rise. Sometimes the greatest defense is knowing when to let God do the talking. In this world that howls for attention and rewards noise with applause, there lives a woman whose silence unsettles the ground. She does not scream to be seen. She does not shout to be heard. She walks through the fire without broadcasting the burn. She holds her tongue like royalty holds a scepter, not out of fear but out of command. People glance at her and whisper, "Why doesn't she speak?" They wonder if she's timid, unsure, or broken. But what they do not know is that this woman has looked into the mirror of life and seen her own reflection not as fragile, but as forged. Forged in stillness, molded in the quiet corners of prayer, tempered by storms that taught her not every battle deserves her voice. She does not speak because she has nothing to say. No, beloved, she speaks when she chooses to. Her silence is not absence. Her silence is strategy. It is wisdom passed down from generations of women who knew that sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is be still and let the storm pass around her. Her silence is a sanctuary. It is not the kind that trembles in the shadows. It is the kind that holds secrets too sacred for the world to understand. The kind that keeps her soul intact when others try to tear it apart. She is the keeper of her own peace, the guardian of her own fire. She is not weak, she is wise. It takes no strength to lash out. It takes no grace to speak before thinking. But oh, it takes courage to sit with your own pain and not throw it like a dagger. It takes power to bite your tongue while the world around you throws stones. And she has learned, from sorrow and sunrise alike, that not every word deserves to be answered. She's been through the rooms where her voice was overlooked. She's walked halls where her brilliance was underestimated. And she has felt the cold hands of betrayal grip her back while her face wore the mask of calm. But she did not scream. She did not crumble. Instead, she turned inward to that sacred space where the spirit meets the soul, and she let God speak for her. You see, a silent woman is not hiding. She is choosing to rise above the noise, choosing to preserve her spirit, choosing to listen more than she reacts. For she knows from a place deep within that every time she speaks, she pours from her cup. And she has learned not to waste her water on the desert of foolishness. There is a regal strength in a woman who holds her silence with dignity. She knows the weight of words. She knows that timing is everything. She knows that when the Lord gives her a word to speak, it will be wrapped in power, not panic. She's not impressed by chaos. She does not clap back because her joy does not live in someone else's approval. Her identity is not up for negotiation, and she does not need to speak to remind the world that she is here. Her being speaks enough. Her presence, her posture, her peace, they all testify on her behalf. The world may see her silence and call it soft, but heaven sees it and calls it surrendered. The world may label her passive, but the angels surround her because she has chosen divine stillness over human noise. Her enemies might mock her quiet, but God sees it as praise, because when she holds her tongue, she is lifting her soul. And oh, she knows. She knows the danger of speaking too soon. She knows the price of giving words to things not meant to be spoken. She's seen how truth can be twisted, how kindness can be weaponized, how a woman's voice can be used against her. So now she chooses her battles. And more often than not, she lets God do the fighting. A silent woman walks like the moon in midnight skies, calm, glowing, and unstoppable. She does not need to raise her voice to raise the standard. She does not need to shout to shift the room. Her peace makes people uncomfortable. Her restraint confuses the chaos. Her stillness stands like a fortress while the world tries to shake her. Some will say she's aloof. Let them say it. Some will think she's hiding. Let them think it. They do not know that her silence is a prayer that never ends. They do not know that her silence is filled with scripture, filled with sacred songs, filled with conversations with her Creator. She is not silent because she has lost her voice. She is silent because she has found her strength. There is a rhythm in her restraint, a beauty in her balance. And while others waste their breath trying to be heard, she is gathering the wind beneath her wings. Because when she speaks, mountains will move. When she speaks, healing will fall like rain. When she speaks, her words will not come from ego, but from eternity. She is not quiet because she is afraid. She is quiet because she trusts. Trusts that God sees what they don't. Trusts that He will repay what was lost. Trusts that in due season her voice will break forth like dawn, full of light, full of warmth, full of purpose. And so she waits. She watches. She worships in silence, not because she is small, but because she is sacred. And oh, what power there is in a sacred woman who knows when to speak and when to stay silent. She is not weak. She is not voiceless. She is victorious in a language the world has forgotten, the language of holy stillness, the language of divine strength, the language of a woman who belongs not to the noise, but to the quiet majesty of God. There are moments in a woman's life when her silence becomes her sword and her stillness becomes her shield. When she chooses not to react, not to rise to every insult, not to dance with every demon that dares to call her name. Oh, it is then that heaven stands at attention. For God Himself, the Master of Justice, the Architect of Truth, steps in for those who step aside and trust Him. There is a sacred art to holding your peace in a world that dares you to lose it. A strength in not letting the fires of others consume your calm. It takes a mighty kind of faith to stay quiet while your name is slandered, your heart is misunderstood, and your spirit is tested. But make no mistake, the woman who can sit in silence while storms rage is not forgotten. She is favored. You see, when a woman holds her peace, she is not forfeiting the fight. She is handing it over to the highest court. She is saying, "This battle is not mine to fight, and these wounds are not mine to explain. I will not lower my voice just to meet the level of chaos. I will not swing wildly just to prove I can. I will stand still and let my God show that He is God." Because the truth is, when we speak too soon, we may speak from pain. When we act too fast, we may act from pride. But when we pause, when we step back and breathe, when we let God enter the scene, we open a door that no man can shut. We give room for miracles. We make space for justice, pure and perfect. The woman who has learned to hold her peace has already won a war. She has defeated the need to be right, the desire to retaliate, the urge to prove. She knows that revenge is a heavy chain, and that silence in God's hands is a key to freedom. Let them talk. Let them lie. Let them twist and turn and try to trip her up. She will not stoop. She will not crumble. For her peace is not made by man, and her vindication does not come from the court of public opinion. Her vindication comes from the Lord, who sees in secret and rewards in power. Sometimes it hurts. Yes, the silence is not always soft. It can be sharp. It can be lonely. It can feel like defeat. But that is where faith comes in, that bold, unshakable belief that God is both witness and warrior. That while she is quiet, He is speaking. That while she is still, He is moving. That while she is weeping, He is writing a story of redemption no one else can erase. The world might say, fight back. But she says, I'll wait. The world says, clap back. But she says, I'll pray. The world says, show them who you are. And she does, but not with fury, with dignity, with grace, with patience that only heaven could have taught her. For she knows that God's justice may not come fast, but it comes full. It does not arrive empty-handed. It brings restoration, revelation, and holy recompense. It arrives not to destroy others, but to deliver her. It elevates without bitterness. It promotes without pride. And it proves that peace was never weakness, it was wisdom. Oh, what a wonder it is when a woman refuses to lose herself just to win a battle. When she decides that her energy is too sacred to waste on noise, and her voice too anointed to argue with shadows. She lifts her eyes to the hills and waits for her help. And when it comes with thunder in its stride and mercy in its hands. God does not forget the woman who kept quiet when the world provoked her. He does not overlook the soul that cried in silence while wearing a smile in public. He does not ignore the one who bowed her head instead of lifting her fist. For every tear she sowed in silence, God stores like diamonds. For every insult she endured with grace, He prepares a crown. She doesn't need revenge because God has a better plan. She doesn't need to explain because God will reveal. She doesn't need to fight dirty because God is clean and clear and just. He knows how to humble the proud. He knows how to lift the meek. He knows how to take ashes and make them into beauty, how to take sorrow and spin it into joy. And the woman who holds her peace, she becomes untouchable. She walks not in fear but in faith, not in panic but in purpose. She understands that her silence is not a sign of defeat. It is the sound of trust, the kind of trust that looks up at the sky and says, God, I don't need to fix it. I need you to. And oh, how He does. Not always how we imagine, not always when we want, but always in the way that brings glory to Him and peace to us. He may not shout it from the rooftops. He may not punish the ones who did her wrong in ways the world can see. But He will elevate her. He will honor her. He will restore what was broken. There is power in a woman who knows that silence is sacred, that every word not spoken is a seed planted in faith, that when she chooses peace, she is not choosing to be passive. She is choosing to be powerful in a way the world cannot define. She is covered. She is protected. She is watched over by a God who does not sleep, a God who does not need to be told what they did, because He already knows. And when the time is right, when the dust settles and the smoke clears, He will stand beside her and say, Look, my daughter has endured. She did not bend to bitterness. She did not lose her light. And now I will lift her high. So let them doubt her. Let them think she's weak. Let them wonder why she never shouted, never cursed, never screamed. Because the woman who held her peace didn't need to prove a thing. She knew that her silence was her shield, and her God was her sword. And in the end, when all is said and done, it will be clear that the woman who said nothing, the woman who prayed and waited and trusted, she was the strongest of them all. There are places only the soul can go, places too deep for the noise of this world to follow. And there, in that secret sanctuary where words fall silent and the spirit rises, the silent woman meets God. She meets Him not in a flurry of sound or a crowd of voices, but in the hush of her heart. In the stillness that others misunderstand, she finds a holy place where only she and her Creator dwell. Silence to the wise woman is not emptiness. It is not absence. No, it is presence. It is the sacred ground where God walks softly, whispering truth in ways no man can replicate. While the world shouts and scrambles, she sits, she listens, she breathes. Because in that quiet place, she hears the voice that formed mountains, parted seas, and cradled stars. She doesn't need thunder to know God is speaking. She doesn't need lightning to believe He's there. All she needs is the still, small voice, the one that speaks not to her ears but to her soul. And to hear that voice, she makes herself still. She silences the inner chatter. She turns off the opinions of others. She lays her worries down like garments at the door of a temple, and she enters in. The silent woman is not running from the world. She's returning to herself. She's peeling back the layers the world tried to put on her, the expectations, the judgments, the noise. She is unlearning the lies and remembering the truth, that her soul was made for communion, that God, who knitted her together in secret, still longs to meet her in secret. Prayer is not always loud. Worship is not always a song. Sometimes the most powerful prayer is a sigh. Sometimes the holiest praise is a tear falling in silence. Sometimes the deepest worship is a woman sitting alone in her room, heart open, mouth closed, spirit lifted. That is where she hears heaven's melody, the one that tells her, "You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are mine." People ask, why is she so quiet? But they do not understand. They do not know the sacred fire burning behind her stillness. They do not see the conversations taking place in her silence. How she is asking God for strength, thanking Him for breath, pleading for direction, all without speaking a word. Her silence is her sanctuary, her shelter, her sanctuary of sacred soundlessness. She may not quote scripture out loud, but the word is written on her heart. She may not shout her hallelujahs, but her life is a song of praise. She may not speak in tongues, but her tears do the talking, and God understands it all. For He speaks the language of silence, and He listens to the sound of a surrendered soul. The silent woman is often mistaken for being distant, but in truth she is deeply present, present with God, present with herself, present in the quiet miracles of each moment. While others rush from noise to noise, she walks slowly through the garden of stillness, gathering wisdom like wildflowers. She is not rushing to be heard. She is listening to be healed. She knows that not every problem needs a spoken solution, that not every pain needs a public announcement. She understands that some healing happens in silence, where the balm of God's presence soothes wounds no one else sees. In the stillness, she doesn't just survive. She is restored. She is made whole not by the noise of affirmation, but by the silence of intimacy with God. She finds God not only in churches, but in quiet mornings and sleepless nights. She meets Him in the sound of her own breathing, in the space between her thoughts, in the rhythm of her heart. And there, in that holy silence, she lays down her burdens. She lets go of what she cannot carry. She receives what the world cannot give. To the outside eye, she is simply quiet. But inside, she is aflame. She is wrestling with angels. She is walking through sacred corridors. She is standing on holy ground. There are prayers rising from her soul like incense. There is glory surrounding her like morning mist. And she carries that presence with her wherever she goes. When she enters a room, peace follows. Not because she's loud, but because she's connected. Her silence speaks of the strength of a woman who has seen too much to be shaken, who has endured too long to be moved by noise. She is anchored in a deeper truth, and that truth gives her a stillness the world cannot touch. You see, silence for her is not a retreat. It is a returning to the arms of the one who knows her name before the world gave her labels, a returning to the rhythm of creation, where everything moves in sacred harmony, a returning to the breath of God, which fills her without a sound. She doesn't need to announce her pain. She places it in God's hands. She doesn't need to broadcast her dreams. She whispers them to the heavens. And while others may think she's doing nothing, she is doing the most important thing of all. She is communing with the source. There is a sweetness in her silence, a reverence, a grace. She has chosen the better portion, like Mary at the feet of Jesus, not distracted by the many things, but focused on the one thing that matters. And that one thing, God's presence, is enough. The silent woman is not lacking. She is full of discernment, full of vision, full of a joy that cannot be explained. She does not need the world to validate her voice, because she has already been heard in heaven. She does not need applause to know her worth, because she is held in the arms of the Almighty. So let her be still. Let her be quiet. Let her commune in silence, for in that silence she is doing holy work. In that silence she is rebuilding. In that silence she is receiving revelation. And in that silence she is hearing what noise can never say. You are seen. You are known. You are loved. Be still and know that I am God. There is a mystery in a woman who doesn't need to shout, a quietness that speaks louder than 1,000 voices. The world may mistake her silence for weakness, but that is because it has never seen the kind of storm that can rage behind still waters. It has never known the kind of courage it takes to be calm when chaos calls your name. Oh yes, the quiet woman, the one who folds her hands and bows her head while others hurl stones. She is not powerless. She is powerful beyond measure. A lion doesn't roar every time it sees prey. Sometimes it watches, waits, moves in silence, and the strength of the quiet woman is much the same. It is not a strength that puffs up and demands attention. It is not the kind that needs the room to turn its head. No, her strength is buried deep, deep like roots that have weathered storms, deep like rivers that flow beneath mountains. And though it may be unseen, it holds everything steady. You see, power is not always loud. Power doesn't always crash like thunder or burn like fire. Sometimes, power moves like a whisper across the soul. Sometimes it stands like a tree that bends but does not break. The woman who walks in silence carries a strength that was not born in applause. It was born in struggle, in waiting, in listening, in learning how to trust something greater than herself. She does not waste her energy on proving who she is. She has lived long enough, loved hard enough, lost enough, and prayed enough to know that proof is for people who do not know their worth. She knows hers, and that knowing allows her to be quiet. Not because she has nothing to say, but because she doesn't need to say it. She lets her presence speak. She lets her peace testify. There is power in restraint, power in not reacting to every insult, power in choosing dignity when disrespect is easier. The woman who walks through fire and doesn't scream is not numb. She is focused. Focused on the other side. Focused on who she's becoming, not who is trying to pull her down. And that kind of focus frightens the world, because the world cannot control what it cannot provoke. Quietness is not surrender. It is strategy. It is the knowing that not every battle is worth your breath. It is wisdom wrapped in stillness, and it is covered in God's own protection. For the quiet woman walks with the Almighty. She speaks less because she listens more. To Him, to her intuition, to the rhythm of life that tells her when to move and when to stay. Others might say, she let them win. But oh, they don't know. They don't know how silence can be the sharpest sword, how stillness can cut deeper than words. She is not giving up the fight. She is rising above it, because what they fail to see is that she's already victorious. She has won the war within herself, the war between reaction and wisdom, between pride and peace. Her quietness is not passive. It is active. It is a force. It's the way a mountain stands while winds howl around it. It's the way a candle still burns in a room full of darkness. Her silence has edges. It can comfort and correct. It can heal and convict. And it cannot be manipulated. Some people speak because they are full. Others speak because they are empty. And some choose silence because they have found fullness in God. She has found her well, her source, her secret place. And from that place flows a power that is not dependent on noise. She is anchored. And when a woman is anchored, you can't toss her about with mere words. You can't bait her with drama. You can't touch her peace. Her grandmother taught her that. Or maybe her mother. Maybe it was the ache of life itself that taught her. You don't always have to respond. Let God fight some battles. And she believed it. Not because it was easy, but because it was true. Because she had seen too many loud people fall, too many proud people stumble, too many empty vessels echo through the air without meaning. And she wanted more. She wanted depth. She wanted stillness. She found it in the arms of the Lord, in the sacred pause between pain and promise, in the hush of a morning prayer. And now she walks with that stillness like a crown. She wears it like armor. And when she walks into the room, people feel it, even if they can't name it. They feel something holy, something grounded, something unshakable. She is not rattled by criticism. She is not seduced by applause. She is not fooled by flattery. Because her power does not come from outside. It comes from within. It comes from a life built in secret, a foundation laid in prayer. And every time she chooses silence over drama, stillness over chaos, faith over fear, that power multiplies. She does not need to yell to be heard. She does not need to fight to prove she's strong. She does not need to defend every move, because the God she serves has already gone before her. He has already prepared a table. He has already declared, "Vengeance is mine." So she rests in that. She leans into that, and she rises, not with noise, but with grace. They may underestimate her. They may call her soft, but they will remember her. They will remember the way she stood without speaking, the way she glowed without shouting, the way she moved through life like a river, gentle but capable of carving stone. There is a power in that kind of woman, a holy power, a divine authority. She may be silent, but she is not small. She may be quiet, but she is not to be ignored. She is a daughter of the Most High, and every time she chooses calm over conflict, she is echoing the very nature of God Himself, who often speaks in whispers, who often waits in love, and who always wins in the end. So when you see her, this quiet woman, this still soul, do not mistake her for one without power. She is the evidence that true power does not need to prove itself. It only needs to be, and she is. Some battles are not meant to be fought with fists, nor with the fire of angry tongues. Some battles belong to the Lord, and the woman who knows this walks different. She walks with a hush around her spirit, not because she is afraid, but because she has seen what happens when you let God speak for you. She has seen mountains move without a sound. She has seen justice rise like the morning sun without her raising a hand. Oh yes, God fights for the silent woman. The silent woman is not without pain. She's not without story. Behind her eyes are chapters filled with betrayal, nights when she cried into a pillow until the pillow itself grew weary, days when her heart thudded beneath the weight of false accusations. She has been hurt deeply. She has been overlooked, taken for granted, lied on, lied to, and left behind. But still, she chose silence. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of faith. She didn't respond to the rumor. She didn't fight back with venom. She didn't write back in rage or curse the name of the one who wounded her. No. She closed the door, went down on her knees, and called on the God of heaven. And the God who neither slumbers nor sleeps stood up for her. He gathered her tears like pearls and wrote her pain into the pages of His justice. While the world watched and waited for her to fall, God was raising her up in silence. See, the silent woman doesn't shout her innocence. She lives it. She doesn't scream for attention. She moves with integrity. She understands that God is not blind to injustice, and He is not deaf to her cries. He is the God of vengeance and restoration, and He knows how to handle what the world thinks is unfixable. He's not just her father. He is her defender. He is her advocate. He is her shield and buckler. And when she steps back, He steps in. There is a special kind of power in a woman who knows when to be still, who understands that some storms are not meant to be chased, but outlasted, that some enemies are not hers to defeat, because they are not really fighting her. They are fighting the God who lives within her, and that is a fight they cannot win. Oh, you may see her quiet, but don't mistake that quiet for weakness. Don't confuse her stillness for surrender. She is still because God told her to be. She is silent because heaven is moving. She is not absent from the battle. She is backed by an army not seen with human eyes. The world mocks what it doesn't understand. It pokes at the calm and calls it cowardice. But they don't know the word she holds in her heart. They don't know how many psalms she's recited at midnight. They don't know about the whispered prayers, the fasting days, the consecrated mornings. She's not silent because she's empty. She's silent because she's full of God. There is a kind of glory that falls on a woman who waits on the Lord, a kind of radiance that no makeup can give, a kind of poise that no stage or spotlight can teach. It's the glow of a soul that's been fought for by God himself. A soul that didn't clap back, didn't fall apart, didn't throw stones, just stood still and watched the salvation of the Lord. She walks with her head held high, not because everything is perfect, but because she knows who holds her future. She may have lost some things, but she hasn't lost her peace. She may have walked through fire, but the fire didn't consume her. It refined her, and the ashes they thought would bury her are the ashes from which God caused her to rise. She has learned that when she fights, she may win or lose. But when God fights, he never loses. He doesn't just avenge. He restores. He doesn't just remove the enemy. He prepares a table in front of them. And when he lifts a woman up, no man, no demon, no lie can drag her back down. The silent woman knows the secret. You don't have to announce your victory when God is your banner. You don't have to defend your name when he's already written it in his book of life. You don't have to answer every critic when heaven has already spoken on your behalf. Yes, she wept. She wondered why. She felt the sting of silence when no one came to her aid. But the silence that once felt like abandonment became her sanctuary. For in that silence, she heard the voice of God saying, I've got this. You be still. I'll go before you. And he did. He opened doors she didn't knock on. He closed mouths that spoke against her. He raised her up in places they tried to bury her. And now, when people look at her, they see strength. They see calm. They see a woman unshaken. But what they're really seeing is the result of 1,000 quiet battles where she let God lead. They're seeing the evidence of holy protection, of divine intervention. They're seeing what happens when you trust the one who knows all and sees all. She no longer needs revenge. She doesn't crave apologies. She has learned the power of release. And when she lets go, heaven takes hold. She doesn't cry the same anymore. Her tears are prayers now. She doesn't walk the same anymore. Her steps are ordered now. She doesn't sit in sorrow anymore. She sits in assurance. For she knows, as sure as the sun rises, that God will always fight for her. Maybe not in the way she expected. Maybe not on the timeline she hoped for. But in his own perfect way and time, justice will come. Peace will rise. And those who once doubted her will have to admit the hand of God was on her all along. So let the world misunderstand. Let the accusers gather. Let the voices rise. She remains unmoved. She remains clothed in quiet strength, because she belongs to the one who says, Touch not my anointed. She is not just surviving. She is soaring on wings of divine favor. The silent woman is not forgotten. She is not forsaken. She is not weak. She is watched over. She is carried. She is lifted. She is loved ferociously, tenderly, eternally, by a God who fights for her when no one else will. And because of that, she does not fear. She is still. She is silent. And she is victorious.